So we're beginning this Wednesday edition of the SportsMax Zone with track and field. The Athletics Association of Barbados has launched a training program aimed at preparing athletes for the CARIFTA Games set for Trinidad and Tobago on the Easter weekend. After securing only 5 medals at the 52nd staging of the event in Grenada last March and a public outrage at the overall performance, the AAB is using the initiative to scout young talent and provide them with professional guidance on nutrition, psychology and performance while setting a goal to cop 50 medals by 2028. AAB President and former Tourism Minister of Barbados, Noel Lynch, joins us via Zoom to discuss this. Noel, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. A Barbadian told me yesterday that you're the best tourism minister in the history of Barbados.
Well, thank you, first of all, Lance, for having me on. If that is his assessment, well, I thank him very much.
Okay, we recall that Sir Wes Hall was a tourism minister many, many years ago, but I suspect that as a Democratic Labour Party man, and you being a BLP, you wouldn't subscribe to that view.
Wes was a good tourism minister.
Oh, he was. Anyway, let's talk some track and field, because I saw you over the weekend, Mr. Lynch, talking about energizing Barbados' youth track and field program to resuscitate your successes at the CARIFTA Games. Can you, in a nutshell, talk to us about what you hope to achieve in the coming months, because the CARIFTA Games are around the corner?
Well, Lance, you still got 8 weeks to go to the CARIFTA Games. That's the first thing. And I don't think we've ever started this early to be able to put things together, to be able to produce what we want. The classical definition of doing things differently, they say if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that's the classical definition of insanity. This is a national junior training development program. It's not just catered for this year's CARIFTA. As a matter of fact, what we want to do in every Olympic cycle is use that 4 years to build out our junior programs. And this is a medium to long-term strategy. It's not me alone. It's a board initiative of the AAB. And we have assembled 140 plus athletes. These athletes were the coaches' recommendations. In other words, we asked all of our existing coaches who are coaching junior athletes to name people who you think, or charges that you think can make the CARIFTA team this year, or maybe in the next 2 or 3 years. And the coaches put forward 140 athletes. We intend to expose them to the best expertise on island in every area that they're competing in. In other words, what's going to happen is we're going to have a technical coordinator. We're going to have 4 coaches for specific disciplines. There's going to be a coach for sprints and hurdles, a coach for jumps, a coach for throws, and a coach for relays. Now, it doesn't mean taking an athlete away from his existing coach. What it does mean is a coaches commission, which is going to coordinate, meet regularly. In other words, if Lance is my athlete, but Lance is a sprinter, I'm really, my expertise is in throws, why not expose him to John Brown, who has gotten successes in sprints, who knows what he's doing? Let us assess the program. Let us see what we're doing. What is expected of the technical coordinator? He would meet with them every week, and he would go through phase by phase in every area, bringing them together like a round coaches roundtable to see how we can help John or Lance to do better in his specific discipline. But in addition to that, we're also exposing them to psychological training. Just last week at the launch, we had a data analytics professional who lectures in data analytics at the University of the West Indies at KFL come in to talk to them about the importance of data. How do you keep records of what you're doing? Starting to keep records, tracking your performances. All of these things have been done to make sure that we not only just get a good CARIFTA team for this year, but that in the future we produce better athletes. Our goal, which a number of people have maybe said that is impossible, our goal this year is to take 50 athletes to CARIFTA, compete in every relay. Jamaica does it. I know your population is much larger. And our goal this year is 40 medals from CARIFTA. We won 5 last year. If we can do this, let me tell you, this will be a shot in the arm for athletics in Barbados.
Yeah, Mr. Lynch, I saw a commentary piece from noted veteran journalist Andy Thornhill suggesting that he liked the narrative. He liked the narrative because he believes in positive thinking, but he thinks that is overly ambitious to think that you could win 40 medals in Trinidad and Tobago in the Easter weekend, given the fact that you're coming from 5 last year.
Yeah. But the year before that, we won 15. So the issue is
but that's still far from 40 now.
Yeah, but the issue is this, Lance. Yeah. Our standards have been set based on the 6th place performance over a 3-year period. The average 6th place over a 3-year period is what we use as our benchmark, our qualifying standard. We use that. Obviously, in some instances, you've got to adjust the 6th place because what's happening is, in other words, suppose an athlete didn't give enough effort and the 6th place needed to be adjusted. But by and large, for most events, the average 6th place finisher in over 3 years is what our standard is. Right now, we've had up to date 20 qualifiers for CARIFTA. 20 people have already qualified for CARIFTA given those standards. Now, we believe that if you make our standard, you'll make the finals. If you make our standard and you perform at the standard level at CARIFTA, you'll make the finals. If you make the finals, we believe that you're in there for a medal. Whether you win a medal or not, there's Jamaica comes away with 75 and 80 medals. And we get 40, Jamaica can't get 80. It's a very simple, this is simple arithmetic. And therefore, you've got Trinidad, you've got the Bahamas. But I believe that there were times in the Barbados has gotten 39 medals already from a CARIFTA Games in the past. I know there are a lot more people competing. I know there are a lot more territories. I know track and field is spread more widely. I know Jamaica, given the successes, most recent successes, your program is now so expanded that you have people winning at the global level, winning medals in throws, in jumps. And I'm saying these are the things that we're going after. We're not just settling, we're going after big things.
Yeah, or some of our younger viewers may not know, Mr. Lynch, that you were the CARIFTA under-20 champion back in 1974 over 100 meters, beating Sharp from Bermuda and Colin Bradford from Jamaica. Those games saw Barbados winning, I think, 24 medals, including 5 gold. Overall, you just gave us a synopsis of your sort of average kind of performance in the past couple of decades. But given how prominent Barbados had been in the 70s, including your gold medal, how satisfied are you with the trajectory of your country at CARIFTA Games?
Well, part of the challenge is, last you neglected to say that I won my gold medal in Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I know. It's easy to forget that. I beat the Jamaicans home at them in their own stadium. But that said, no, the issue is, I think over the years, I think we've done relatively well. I believe that we need a more comprehensive training program, though, along the lines that we're going now. The concept of this technical director at the junior level, having coaches in specific disciplines, exposing these athletes to nutrition and understanding psychology and understanding goal setting and dealing with defeat and dealing with victory and all these other things. A team atmosphere, feeding off of other athletes is something that we haven't put together. But I will also tell you that one of the challenges that we face is a small population. I mean, people will talk about other people winning medals over, like for example, St. Lucia won an Olympic gold medal, Grenada won an Olympic gold medal. People will say, I know you claim the St. Lucia gold medal, I know Jamaica played a part in that. But ultimately, our challenge as a small population is keeping athletes in the sport, even particularly girls, after 15 years old, 14 years old. They don't want to be involved. So these programs are also going to be talking about the history of the sport, the importance of sport to national development. Everyone is not going to make the CARIFTA team. Everyone is not going to become a regional, hemispheric, or even world champion. But the important thing is improved citizenry is what we're also looking out for. And I believe it can be done. I believe if we follow this program and we keep it going, even if we didn't achieve the 40 medals this year, I'm telling you, by 2028, I expect we'll be in the region of 40 to 50 medals.
Yeah.
If we keep this program.
And Noel, you made that point just now, and it had me thinking, about the young girls after the age of 15, not wanting to be involved in the sport. Have you gathered any sort of information or any research as to why not? Because, around like in Jamaica, the girls are very in tune with the sport. They know where they're heading. They have their goals. They look at, former athletes like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Elaine Thompson-Herah, and they look up to them as role models. So why is it that the girls in Barbados aren't continuing after that age?
Well, one of the things is that we've always talked about this. I mean, we've now brought in the data analysts, and we're doing a lot of research. But one of the things that you find in small population, see, you have 3 million people in Jamaica as a population. Trinidad has just over 2 million people. You're talking about 280,000 people in Barbados. And apart from the fact that the statistical pool is smaller, one of the issues is that it is our belief that girls don't, your body changes. You're beginning to look, you've got to be able to train a lot. And just this is just what we have been told anecdotally from a lot of the things that we've heard. Is that a lot of our charges to, they don't want to look muscular and everything else. No, it doesn't mean, now if you have, the larger the statistical pool, the more of these people you will get. But obviously, the narrower the pool, the less of them you have. And then the other thing that is important is this, the educational label. Barbados has this huge reputation for producing all these great student athletes. I know it's a Caribbean thing, but once they start to get into their studies, and again, given all the other issues that I just spoke about, add to that, in a small statistical pool, the issue of education, doing your homework. I tell people this, I was a CARIFTA Games gold medalist, as Lance said, and I went away on an athletic scholarship. And when my father took me to the airport, he never said anything about winning an Olympic gold medal or becoming a world champion. He said, get your degree, boy, make sure you get your degree. And these are the things that really make a difference. And I said, the smaller the population is, the worse it becomes, the more difficult it is, better said, to be able to get people to go on through these phases.
Yeah, well, then that just simply means the next 9 weeks will actually be a bit tougher than, what we imagined, especially because now you have to sort of reprogram the minds of these youngsters as to the future that, taking part in these events will have for them. It's not like before where you take part in track and field and whatnot, and then, you can't really earn a living. Now,
Right.
If you do very well, there are endless opportunities for you.
Well, the thing is this, one of the things that we did at the launch, and I don't say this as a boss, I tried to explain to them that I was an athlete as well. But I also was a member of parliament for 3 terms. I was a minister of government for 9.5 years. I was a lecturer at KFL. I was a teacher. I was the Barbados ambassador to the United States. I'm permanent representative to the OAS for 5.5 years. And I'm saying that even within the midst of everything that you're doing, track and field can be the platform on which you build a proper professional and personal life. And that's the thing that we got to get over, because as I said, everyone is not going to be an athlete that's going to have success on the track or in the field. But one of the things is that you can use this sport, and I owe everything to track and field. I mean, I got my scholarship, I got all my degrees. I've never had to spend a penny, my parents, in terms of a tertiary education. And that's important to these athletes. You've got to get it over to them. And then the other thing is the history of the sport. One of the things that we're going to be doing too is bringing Obadiah Thompson is on island. He got in just a little bit late on the Saturday. But I'm going to get him he's going to speak to our athletes and try to see, that kind of success. He's an attorney in the United States. He's an Olympic bronze medalist, a CARIFTA Games multiple gold medalist. That's the kind of thing that you need. This thing can be done both in the area of academics and athletics, and that the two can be married.
Yeah, Mr. Lynch, if you can, in just about 30 or 40 seconds, explain from your standpoint how important you see CARIFTA as a developmental tool for these athletes.
Well, certainly it has been the platform for the development of our athletics in the region. All of the major champions, Usain Bolts and the Shelly-Ann Fraser-Prices and everybody else, came through CARIFTA. And therefore, all the athletes that we've ever talked about have done well in track and field. And therefore, I've set the stage and told them, this is where it begins, but this is not where it ends. CARIFTA is really the development tool that we need for athletic development in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and Mr. Lynch, I'm really happy you answered the question that way, because there's something I'm struggling with, and I've struggled with it for quite a long time. And you started an explanation earlier in terms of how you arrive at your entry standards for your athletes. Now, to be absolutely clear, there are entry standards for the CARIFTA Games, and then the Athletics Association of Barbados has their own entry standards. Now, your entry standards are higher than the entry standards of the competition itself. And I'm struggling to understand, Mr. Lynch, why, for an event that is considered a developmental tool, giving the athletes opportunity to go to CARIFTA, see how this thing is done, see how other athletes at a higher level do things, from things that we may consider to be basic, from seeing how they warm up, how they prepare for their events, and so on. Why you would want to limit your pool, an already small pool, to only those who are averaging the times of top 6 performances, and then you're asking them to do that as well in a 3 or 4 month period within the year of the very CARIFTA Games that you're sending them to. So let's take, for example, you have a youngster who is 14 years old, who might have 2 or 3 years in the under-17 category. You're asking them to make a standard that is higher than the CARIFTA standard, and in my estimation, quite possibly taking away the potential for experience that will make them better in 2 or 3 years. I've always struggled with it, and I'm still struggling with it.
I respectfully disagree with you. I do not know that there's a CARIFTA standard. There's no CARIFTA standard. You don't have to make a standard to go to CARIFTA. That has never been. This is not the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games or anything, or the World Championship. Every territory determines who they want to take to CARIFTA. But at the same time, you've got to marry two things. You've got to marry the competitiveness of that athlete, and you've got to also marry his or her own development. Now, what you don't want to do is to embarrass an athlete. You don't want to take an athlete there that wouldn't even get out of the first round or be beaten by 20 meters in the 100 meters. That's not what you want. You want to be competitive. Now, it's not just about winning medals. You want to be competitive, and that's why the 6th place average standard in our context has been set. Now, there's no qualifying standard for CARIFTA. Anybody can go to CARIFTA once the country wants to take them. And my thing is that we believe that we can take a competitive set who are going to develop, who've shown the potential, and therefore can go on in this sport. So therefore, it's not about limiting anyone at all. And also, and then there's another aspect of this. Whenever you get onto that plane, it costs money to go onto that plane. And people think, nobody's ever asked, how do you get the money to do this? Where do you get the resources? It cost us last year $100,000 Barbados dollars to take our athletes to Grenada. And that had nothing to do with us taking 40 athletes to St. Vincent to compete on a synthetic track. Because at that time, last year, we had no synthetic track in Barbados. And people ask you, that's $140,000 for an association which has a budget of just about $400,000 to $500,000. Now, I know the government will assist a little bit. The Olympic Association will assist a little bit. But this money is raised on the backs of volunteer administrators. I've been a volunteer administrator in track and field for over 30 years. Esther Maynard, who's legendary, has been a volunteer administrator for 60 years. And we are reaching the point where people, not even officials, will come out unless there's some kind of stipend, unless you feed them, unless you give them some kind of apparel. This is a serious business. And therefore, there's a lot more that goes into just running these associations and taking people to CARIFTA that meets the eye. But there's no way we are limiting people. We are seeking to create those, help those who are competitive and get them to the CARIFTA Games and go beyond.
But will you admit, Mr. Lynch, that you can be competitive, and especially in specific cases, without making that average top 6 qualifying time?
Of course, it would be foolhardy to say not. But the thing is, you've got to set a benchmark. How do you assess?
But does the benchmark have to be that high? That's really the question I'm asking here.
But I don't know about a sixth place. The other thing is this. You don't necessarily have to make the qualifying standard to make the team, because what we've done, we carry people for development purposes all the time. Some people, if you're just outside of the time, we'll take you there, but you don't. But as I said, you don't want the athlete to be not competitive in his or her event.
And I'm not suggesting that at all, Mr. Lynch.
Right. But so make sure of this. Ensure that this happens. That athlete is competitive, will want to continue in the sport, will not be embarrassed. That's one of the things you've got to be very careful with. And that's why we do what we do. No, it doesn't mean it's a screening tool. It doesn't mean it's the only tool that we use for assessment. If you are, for example, if you're under 17 and you're 14 years old and you're outside of the qualifying mark, but we see you've only got maybe a year in the sport, a couple of months, and we see potential, we take you to CARIFTA. So that's being said. But we want you to be competitive. We want you to show interest. We want you to go the extra mile. That's what we're seeking to do.
Yeah. The other point I wanted to take you up on, and you know, I'm very happy actually to see the training program that has been put in place for the juniors. Because when I look at the system in Barbados, and by the way, this is not unique to Barbados, I see it in other Caribbean territories as well, is that there is a pay-to-play culture, meaning a lot of the development takes place through the clubs. And it means, therefore, that a lot of the athletes have to pay for that development, have to pay for quality, sustained coaching. It's in the Bahamas as well. It's in Trinidad and Tobago as well. I believe that a large part of the success of Jamaica's track and field is that that culture does not exist. So an athlete lands in a high school and they have the opportunity to train with quality coaches and other quality athletes, and they get taken care of, taken to a number of events to compete. That doesn't exist in your country. I strongly believe it is part of the reason you struggle to churn out a lot of quality at the junior level. And I just wanted to know if this is something that has been thought about and how, if possible, it can be fixed.
Well, I'm glad that you said that. No, I think that has a lot of truth. What you said has a lot of validity in it. Let me say, I think that when I started with the 25 medals that we would have won when I was the CARIFTA champion in '74, we must have taken 30 athletes, come back with 25 medals. Now, one of the things that was important was that in those days, we used to have something called the Schools League in Barbados. Every Saturday, every weekend, schools used to compete. So if you weren't a member of a club, but you honed your skill at the school. I honed my skill on the grass track at my school. I went on to become a CARIFTA champion. Now that culture doesn't exist a lot because of what I said previously. For example, you have a larger population, a lot of expansive grounds and everything else that you can train on. Jamaica has been winning Olympic medals since 1952. So the legacy, there's a strong legacy of performance.
48.
Well, 48. Well, yeah, but you're winning your first goal, I think. Herb McKinley and them in 52, right?
48. First gold medal was won in 48.
48? I thought it was 52.
And followed up in 52, yeah.
Right, like somewhere around there, right? Herb McKinley and Les Lang and all them people. I know this sport. Now, let me say this. In our case, we got physical education teachers, and they are the ones who are really doing the talent scouting in the schools. They're the ones, but remember, they've got a wider responsibility because they are PE coaches. Now, in my high school, what we've done this year is that we've employed a track and field coach specifically to deal with track and field, identify talent. And the Old Scholars Association, the ex-alumni, we're the ones who actually pay him to be able to go to the school. And I think it's a model that needs to be replicated across the country, because I agree with you. If you're not able to get to a club, not able to get to some other district. And let me tell you this, what our government is doing in Barbados. We are putting 3 new tracks down and 2 going into the rural areas of Barbados, because that's the next aspect of this. The Motley administration has actually earmarked and has set aside funding for tracks in rural areas, because we think there's a lot of talent out there. We're going to send coaches from the National Sports Council there. But the schools program, I agree with you, is where it's at. If you don't do it through your schools, because I said this before, I was a teacher. Between 11 and 19, The place where a child is found is in a school. If you want to develop anything, develop it in a school. Our cricket program, Roddy Eswick was assigned to the Combermere School, and Combermere won everything. He was not a PE teacher, he was a cricket coach. And I agree with you what you said 100%. And that's the next goal that we're working with the government on. I want to see a track and field coach in every school. Pick out, if it were me that were running the things at the government level, I mean, they don't have to agree with me, I would pick the key sports that I think, the stars, and the ones because of national development, the numbers of people that are in them. And I would have a coach assigned to primary and secondary schools in each of those 5-6 disciplines to ensure that we can create the best, because not everybody has the wherewithal and the resources to be a member of a club.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, Mr. Lynch, I wish I had more time to have this conversation with you. I still think your CARIFTA entry standards are too high, but hey, maybe one of these days we can have a sit down and chat about it some more. Well, a lot of your standards, let me not say all of them.
But we can't always agree, because I feel in some events, for example, if you carry an under 20 girl that can't run under 12 seconds, you know the sport, Lance knows the sport. If I walk up to Trinidad or walk down to Trinidad with a girl who's under 20 that can't break 12, you know what I mean? Are you really being competitive? That's what I'm asking. Are you really helping that girl? Or are you doing something, and that girl, and the girl's running 11.3 or whatever, what are you doing to that child? What are you doing mentally to that child? What are you doing physically to that child? Think about it.
Yeah.
And therefore, you've still got to have a benchmark.
Yeah.
So I don't think my standards are too high at all.
Mr. Lynch, there are some other factors, but we'll get into them another time.
Talk again. We can talk again.
Yeah, we will for sure. Take care, man.
Great. Thank you for having us on. Thank you.
For sure. Lance, Mariah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to close to watch what happens for Barbados at the CARIFTA Games coming up in TNT.
Yeah.
I see at the Aline School Sports yesterday, a nurse broke a 43-year-old school record at their school sports, running 11.77, which was, I think, just 100th of a second slower.
Where was the meet?
It could have been at the Usain Bolt complex.
Okay. Yeah.
At the Usain Bolt complex.
I've been there.
So that was a pretty decent time for late February. So, and she was a bronze medalist last year. So let's see what happens. But very, very forward-thinking from the AAB president, Noel Lynch, who, as you heard him say, he knows the sport. And let's hope that Barbados can lift their performances in the coming months.
What I get is, they're very excited, very enthusiastic. A lot of the plans are, I think, for the future.
Yes.
They're thinking about, the youngsters and developing the players. Development is always a good thing. Ricardo, that point that you made about the high standards, you and Mr. Lynch will have to battle that one out.
We'll catch up and talk about it, but I tell you something. As Mr. Lynch said, we know the sport. Barbados won't win 40 medals in Port of Spain.
Break time.
And if they do, I'll take a break from this show.